And welcome back, everyone. Welcome back to another week, another edition of ESL Open Cup Americas number 215. It is good to be back here again. We took a bit of a day off yesterday, trying to gather our bearings, trying to catch up on a bunch of work as well, and we've returned. We've returned with the ESL Open Cup. A lot has been announced in the past 24 hours. A lot is going on. Just to quickly go over some things, of course, is apparently there is a new event. There is a big new event that is on the horizon called Stars War. What? Apparently Stars War is like a big event in China, and it is a big esports event basically where multiple esport events are taking part in it, and has been running for a long time. I believe the last time StarCraft was involved, it was back in 2019, so it's been a while since StarCraft has been at Stars War over in China, but it is returning this year. It is returning this year after a long hiatus, so it is good to be back. Feels good, Papi, feels good. So that is going to be actually in a couple of weeks. Relatively soon are the qualifiers for Stars War, so that's going to be already a big thing on the horizon here, and we'll be focusing on that in the coming weeks. Basically the first week of March. Qualifiers are going to be held for Korea, for Asia, for America, for Europa. They're going to be qualifiers for all the regions, and we will do our best to cast them starting next week. Likewise, there are also going to be qualifiers, that's going to be leading into closed qualifiers as well, basically all throughout March, just non-stop qualifiers for the entirety of the month. So we will be focusing on that as best we can. Of course, in the interim, in between all of these Stars War, it's gonna be so weird saying Stars War instead of Star Wars. It feels weird coming off the tongue, but yeah, we're gonna be focusing on Stars War, on the qualifiers, and of course we're gonna be covering the ESL Open Cups as well, KSL, our own events, and any other events that we do have commitments to. So it's gonna be a pretty busy month, a very busy month, the month of March. I'm a little bit concerned. Just because I am aware that the month of March is at some point I'm going back to Australia. I am returning back to Australia. 32-man online portion, 8-man offline. Exactly. There is going to be an offline portion to it, which is a lot of fun. It's been a while since we've had an offline event in China, so it's great to see it's returning. But next month, March, is when I'm returning to Australia, and unfortunately, it's a 32-hour trip, so just under 2 days I'm going to be traveling, and I believe in that period is also going to be some of those qualifier broadcasts, and I won't be able to cast. I'm going to be reaching out to Yaku, of course. We may still have some Duckling coverage, it's possible. We'll try to sort something out so we can still cover those qualifiers and still bring you as much StarCraft as we can. Otherwise, there may be a couple of days of the qualifiers that we miss out on, which would be a shame. If that were the case. I might try to catch up with those afterwards. I'll do my best. I'll try. But yeah, unfortunately, I'm going to be traveling in March, and it does coincide with some of those broadcasting days. So we'll figure it out. We will figure it out. Regardless, we have before you some StarCraft. Now, this is the 215th edition of the Americas ESL Open Cup. This is last week's tournament. We had a really hard time finding a place to slot it in and cast. Our schedule was just really busy and really jam-packed. So unfortunately, we weren't able to cover it last week, but here we are covering it this week. So today we're casting the 215th edition, tomorrow the 216th. So 216, which is this week's ESL Open Cup Americas, will be tomorrow on Friday. So again, we got you covered with plenty of StarCraft action in the coming days and in the coming weeks as well. Oh boy. And yeah, I'm just looking at our calendar, and there's a lot to fill in. There's gonna be a lot to fill in, Papi. We'll do our best. Regardless, here we go. Time to kick things off. 32 hours to get home. Like, that's a long way. Yeah. It's long, Papi. So I mean, if I remember correctly, it's like 6 hours in Frankfurt and like 5 hours layover in Singapore. I have some big layovers in Frankfurt and Singapore. Outside of that, though, it's all travel time. Outside of those 2 layovers. So yeah, a lot of travel, Papi. A lot of travel. Yeah, let's go. Hi. Regardless, we do have our matches here before us. So we're going to be diving into the round of 16, I believe, with the PvZ. The PvZ Trigger versus threepoint. Trigger, of course, an up-and-comer, or now a mainstay, a titan of the scene of the Americas region. The best Protoss in all of Canada, up against threepoint. Threepoint, who's been an up-and-coming Korean for a very long time, for many years at this point, ever since 2020-ish. So it's been a while since threepoint has been competing. Recently, he joined Honmono. He joined many other Koreans on Hyper One's team, and threepoint has been focusing on improving. He took a bit of a hiatus. He took a break from the game, but now he is back in full swing, going up against Trigger in a best of 3. Let's go. Let us go. Again, we do have 4 best of 3s ahead of us. Then once we wrap that up, we're going to be reaching the semifinals. We're going to be reaching the semifinals thereafter. We're going to be having a short break in between the quarterfinals and the semifinals, so we can just, take a moment to get some rest, to go to the bathroom, get some water, hydrate your hydras, all that good stuff before we dive into the semis and the grand finals thereafter. So we got 7 matches all in total, and here we go, spawning in, there we go. Spawning in the bottom right-hand corner of Golden Aura, we have our Canadian Protoss player, the Red Protoss, representing Team Basilisk. It is Trigger. And spawning in the top left-hand corner, we have his opponent. We have the purple Zerg player. Ooh, going for a 12 pool, because of course he is the most aggressive Zerg player in all of South Korea. The purple Zerg representing Team Hyper One. It is threepoint. Here we go. The DVP is upon us. And the drone is going to be hatch blocked here on the low ground. Little does Trigger know, it was a fake. The drone, it's moving out across the map. Again, it was a 12 pool opener. Trigger, he's going to be checking the third base location, confirms it is not there. He's going to be doubling back over. Ooh, he's going to check the other third base location first, confirming that isn't there. And now alarm bells should be ringing. He's coming back in. No expansion on the low ground. Now he has to go and confirm where your gas is, where's your spawning pool, what exactly is going on. It is going to be a proxy hatch across the map. Oh, he's checking. Up. And Trigger, he does move forward, does open up 2 gates. A good response so far, but oh, the wall is denied. Drone does come in to disrupt that wall. We do have Lings on the horizon. We are flooding Lings across the map. A hatchery has been thrown down, and we have to focus on walling up as hard as we can. Again, Trigger, he was able to piece it together just barely in time. He threw down the second gateway as well, so we can get into double gateway production, but we need a forge. A forge is ideal. A forge followed by cannons. Instead, we're going for a cyber core. Oh boy. This is going to be a tight defense. One of these gateways is quite exposed here on the left-hand side. Zealot does rock up. Lings, they do go for the gateway on the right and the left. Enough surface area for 3 Lings on each building. Gateways are finishing up. I believe this second Zealot should come out. I believe we don't have enough surface area to actually kill the building before that does occur. And there we go. Second Zealot is on the way. Adept is being chronoed as we speak towards the left-hand side. Ooh, better surface area here, though. The gateway, sorry, it's going to go down. Yeah, just too much surface area. 4 Lings is going to be enough. The gateway is going to fall here towards the left-hand side. The Adept, it's so close. The Adept is so close to moving out, but alas, it might be too late. Oh my god. 1 more second is all we need, and both gateways go down. We get a full surround as well. We collapse here on the probe, on the Zealots. And this may just be too much again. 0 production for Trigger. No forge either. A little bit too greedy. Too greedy here by a Protoss player. Lings, they're flooding across the map. GG gets called, and threepoint takes game number 1. Ooh, GG. Bappy. Threepoint popping off with a 12 pool with a proxy hatchery. Again, it did take Trigger a little bit longer to confirm. For one, well, a couple of things happened. One, Trigger, once he denied the natural base, he didn't go into the main. He checked the 2 third base locations first before checking the main base, which is sensible, don't get me wrong. But because of this, that's why it took a little bit longer to realize what was happening. On top of that, not going for the forge response, relying on those zealots instead, and unable to have a secondary wall behind it. It was a little bit too greedy there by Trigger. I mean, to be fair, it was so close. Remember, one more second and we would have had an adept. Like, that was so close to popping out. Would that have adept have changed the outcome of that game? It's possible. It's possible. With 3 units out, 2 zealots and an adept, maybe we're able to hold on. Regardless, Trigger just barely didn't take it seriously enough, and just like that, 3-point, he's up in the series. Very impressive. Very impressive stuff here by 3-point in game 1, and now we're getting into game numero 2. Now, something like a 12 pool, like what we just saw, is quite powerful on Golden Aura and on smaller maps like Hard Lead as well. But once we start entering these larger maps, we should be going in a different direction. Again, though, 3-point, he is the cheesiest Zerg player in South Korea, so I expect some kind of aggression out of him. Even if it's not a 12 pool, we could see something else, something just as wild, just as crazy, I'm sure. As spawning in the bottom right hand corner of Hard Lead, we have our Canadian Protoss player, the Red Protoss representing Team Basilisk, down in this series already. He needs to fight back here and now. It is Trigger. And spawning in the top left hand corner, we have his opponent. We have the South Korean Zerg player, the purple Zerg representing Team Hyper 1, leading this series 1-0 after the 12 pool, now going for a 15-15. It is the 3-point. Here we go. There it is, 15 hatchery into a 15 spawning pool as we cancel that gas geyser. A very safe opener. Interesting contrast. Game 1, went for a cheese, went for an all-in. Game number 2, we have a very safe opener here. We're able to get our expansion on location as a result. And Trigger, of course, is coming in with the Probe Scouts. By the time he gets here, as we can see, the hatchery is already on the way, so he won't be able to disrupt the opener of 3-point. And we're going to be settling into a much more standard game, and Trigger can get into the swing of things. He can get into his own game as well. Again, Trigger, he just wasn't able to really interact or adapt or even take part in the last game too much. It was over before it really did begin. But now we can sink our teeth into a solid ZVP, at least for now. I say at least for now. I mentioned before that 3-point, he is the cheesiest Zerg player in South Korea, and you know, a Bane bust isn't off the table, a Roach Rush, a Queen Walk across the map, which are quite common on Hard Lead because of the short rush distance by ground. Especially if this triangular third is taken as well, then you can kind of launch your creep forward into the center and across the map thereafter. You can knock down these rocks, you can reduce the surface area, reduce the travel time to get across the map as well. Like, there's a lot that you can do here to be that much more aggressive. Again, I mainly got my eyes on 3-point. I expected Trigger to go for a Stargate opener. I expect a Stargate into Oracles, into a third base. I'm not really expecting too much aggression from our Protoss, but we'll see. We shall see. And there it is. There is that Twilight Council, sorry, that Stargate on the way. It is going to be the Oracle opener, as we did mention, as we did expect. Again, Stargate into Oracle, triple Oracle into a third base. We'll see if Trigger does deviate from that, as he does move out across the map with his initial Adept. Adept is moving out. Going to be threatening those bases here. Again, we have to be very careful not to lose the Adept as well. And we shouldn't be losing it, especially with a 15-15. Specifically, this opener, this build from 3-point has delayed gases. Gas is late, link speed is late as a result. Without link speed, this Adept should be okay. Like, we shouldn't really be losing it anytime soon. We should be able to poke and prod and pull back whenever we do feel threatened. As we do dance with the Lings and the Queens. Second Adept has arrived. Now we can one-shot workers. We do get the tumor. Very nicely done. Tumor is going to be going down. Likewise, behind this, Oracles are on the way, as we did mention. The first of many, I imagine. Meanwhile, 3-point, backing up a couple of Lings just to be safe. Still droning. Third base has been thrown down. It's about to finish up. Is about to complete. The Oracle does make its way in between the bases. Queen so far in position, able to zone those Oracles away. So far taking no damage. The spores are finishing up. Drones are able to be kept safe and sound. So far, good defense by 3 points. The Oracle finds a spore at the third. We can maybe force a cancel. Up! We do force a cancel, forcing another spore very quickly, and we should force another cancel. Ooh, as the drone does go down. We got one drone kill, but only one. As threepoint can now saturate his third. Likewise, we have Trigger as well, back at home, taking his own third base. Oracle dips into the main, gets another 2 drones, 3 in total. Not bad. Not bad here as the Oracles are kept alive. And now we have our transition, Twilight Council and a Forge. This should be +1 and Blink. Should be +1 and Blink here from our Protoss. Likewise, Roach Horn gets thrown down at the 4-minute 40 mark. A pretty respectable timing here for the Roach Horn. Pretty safe overall. Not rushing into it early on or anything like that. Lair has been thrown down. We get a couple more drones here at the third base. Well, as we do go for the recall. Oh. Getting a third drone before recalling the hell out of there. And the game is going to be settling and stabilizing from here. And what I'm a little bit interested by is the fact that threepoint, again, we haven't really seen anything crazy from him. Standard Roach timing, standard Lair timing as well, getting to our third base. He took the linear third, not the triangular third as well, so a very safe third, so we're getting into a longer game. Now, what I will say is that even though I do, as we get a couple more drones in the main, even though I dubbed threepoint as the cheesiest Zerg player in South Korea, and I stand by that, he can play macro. He can play macro quite well, actually. At least from what I remember, he plays a killer late game ZVZ and ZVT. His ZVP, a little bit more up in the air when it comes to how solid it is, so I'm curious to see how he does get into the mid game, at least against Trigger. Lings, they take down 1 Adept, but only 1 Oracle's here to support. Lings, they get annihilated. Queens are forced back, 4th base is on the way, and threepoint, he is still droning. He's going to be saturating at least his third. Now, I'm curious if we do cut workers at 66, which is 3 base saturation. We are not, as we're joining up even further, and we're going for Roach Hydra. Hydra Den is on the way. Very interesting. Meanwhile, Stalkers, they have arrived, applying pressure to the 4th base. Lings, they do get caught out by the stasis trap. We can threaten the Queens. Queens are under fire. Roach is still on the way. Trigger doesn't have quite enough Stalkers to push onto creep, though. Just applying some light pressure to the hatchery. And he will be forced back. There we go. Reinforcements now on the way. Good control out of Trigger, and he's going to be able to push on through. Almost gets a Roach. Almost does get it as the Ravagers, they do barely finish up in time. 1 Ravager goes down. Chance fuse 1 second too late on the other Ravager. And Trigger, you can see he's just constantly reinforcing, taking his 4th base behind this, applying as much pressure as possible. The goal here for Trigger is to kill this 4th. To kill the hatchery, or even just trade well against the army. Soul Stasis Trap here. Ooh, on both the Lings and the Roaches. Ay. Brutal stasis there on a threepoint, and Trigger, he can keep pushing. How much have we gotten so far? We've gotten 1 Queen, 1 Roach, 2 Ravagers, a good amount of Lings. As he does shave off some of those Roaches. Hydras are amassing. I mean, I don't mind the Roach Hydra composition here, but unfortunately our drone count just is not ideal. We're still stuck on 71 workers. Trigger, he has a better economy. He's throwing down cannons, shield batteries prepared here for a counterattack. We have the Colossus in production as well. Double Colossus production soon to be on the way. There it is. It is in production, and threepoint is 1 step behind. At this point, with the arrival of these Colossus, we need lurkers more than anything. Or we need a hit now. And he is pushing, that is true, but the longer this goes on, the harder it's going to be for threepoint. As he's pushing into a pretty heavily fortified position. And Richards, they come in! Ooh, they take a big stasis to the face. Ay. Not like this. Threepoint is maxing out, that is true. But the soup does lie here. This is inflated supply with all these Roaches. And look at not just the supply of Trigger, the army, but also the static defense. Here we go, we are pushing in. Stasis Trap does catch some of these things. Overcharge is popped. Yeah, keeping these cannons alive, buying so much time. Stasis Trap does run out, but the Colossus have made it. And with the arrival of these Colossi, once the Roaches go down, we can annihilate the Hydras. And we can see threepoint trying to force the issue here. He does work his way through a wall of cannons. Boys are being pulled, and there it is. The Hydras are exposed. And the Hydras, they're melting here against the Colossus. They're all going to be going down. A brutal fight there by threepoint. Not like this. Yeah, he throws away all of his Ravagers and his Hydras. A couple of Roaches survive, but he lost his high-tech units. He lost every single Hydra and Ravager. He did kill 9 probes, but you can see the supplies even up. Like, threepoint, he was up, what, 70? Almost 80 supply? And that disparity is no longer there. Again, the position was just a little bit too strong there by Trigger. Now he's up to 3 Colossus. Now from here, we can go into Disruptor production or Immortals. And we can see we're focusing on Immortals here for the time being for Trigger. Behind this, now we have a Hive. And honestly, we needed this earlier. Like, at a certain point, threepoint needs to recognize that he missed his timing. Like, clearly he wanted to go for an all-in there. I mean, that was an all-in. Like, he wanted to just hit a timing with his Roach Hydra and end the game. But because he was slowed down so much, and because there was so much stacked defense here as well, and stasis traps, cannons, shield batteries, we needed a faster realization of this and a faster transition into something like Hydras ahead of time, or even an earlier like recognition of this. As the Hive is still halfway done, this should be leading into Hydra Lurker Viper, which is good, don't get me wrong. Hydra Lurker Viper would be good against this army, but it's going to take so long. It's so far away here to get into that kind of tech. And Trigger is now pushing. Trigger is now moving out. Lings, they try to come in from behind. They try to collapse on the army. We do see Trigger just setting up another wall of cannons here at his 5th. Forced to rotate over. This is going to be a good surround here by threepoint. There we go, coming in from behind. A good force field here by Trigger to slow down the army, but the Colossus are exposed. They do take a lot of hits, and one of them gets focused down. We managed to get 1 Colossus. We get an Immortal as well. Not a bad fight here for threepoint at all. As he tries to get another Colossus, but the overcharge gets popped, and we keep the remaining Colossi alive. Ooh. Again, threepoint forced back. Trigger barely holding on here. Again, that overcharge was pretty clutch. If it wasn't for that overcharge, we probably kill at least 1 more Colossus. This low health Colossus should have gone down, but last Trigger does defend. Threepoint, he backs off. He drones up a little bit. He's still on a very low worker count. He was on 71, now he's on 73. Again, still a low saturation, low economy. Working towards, there it is, Lurker Den, Viper production. Lurker Den is late. Lurker upgrade's going to be late as well. But it's on the way. Alas, because it's going to take time to get into this, it's giving Trigger the opportunity to get into High Templar. And something that did occur, Storm. Storm is done. Storm is done, High Templar coming out. It isn't just about the storms, but also about the feedbacks. We need to feedback those Vipers. We need to be proactive with our spellcasters here. See, threepoint trying to come in from left-hand side is spotted. Spotted by the army. Ooh. Lings, they get shaved off as well. Storm's gonna be throwing down big feedbacks as well. We get every single Viper. Every single Viper was feedbacked. We try to catch the army. Colossus, they can kite away. And Trigger, he takes a much better fight here. And doesn't lose his Colossi. Doesn't lose any of them. Getting into more Immortals. Relying more on High Templar and Storm. Jesus, how many Immortals does he have? I just realized. We are up to 7 Immortals, and we're still making 2 at a time. We have the shield upgrades on the way now that we have +3. Honestly, from here, I would not be opposed to Sky Toss. It's possible. I mean, Trigger, he's seen the Vipers. He hasn't seen the Lurkers yet. He can assume that there are Lurkers on the way, but he doesn't know for certain. Once the Lurkers are revealed, we should be throwing down, like, Stargates and a Fleet Beacon. Speaking of, we do go for a massive attack here with our Lurkers. We go straight for the 4th base. Sorry, straight for the 5th. Good yoinks, 2 Immortals go down. And Trigger, he ignores the army. Good decision here. He cannot push into this. How many Lurkers? 10 Lurkers in total. At the same time as Zella run by towards the left-hand side. Push right towards the center. Do we have detection? Do we have detection? Oh, God! as the High Templar taking a lot of hits here from those lurkers. At the same time, lurkers, they do push in between the bases into cannons, though. Yeah, lurkers are going down. They are spotted by the cannons. At the same time, Trigger, he comes across the Hive. Yeah, unfortunate here, the Hive was at the third base location. It will go down. On top of that, the lurker then also exposed. As he recalls. Does recall back home. The Observer is with the army. Yeah, over those lurkers. Unburrow at the wrong time. Big storm here. We clean everything up. The lurkers go down. We do see threepoint trying to go for another attack here at the new 5th. Viper overextends. That was a high energy Viper. No. The Viper with the highest energy did go down to the cannon. And Trigger, he has to ride big storms here on the army. The spine shots are not looking too bad though. But the Vipers are not helping. Yeah, at the same time, Zeltay go ham. They killed 20 drones across the map. We clean up all the lurkers and we counterattack at the same time. GG gets called. Trigger ties up the series 1-1. GG. A solid game there out of Trigger, but shout out to threepoint because despite what I would say the failed attack with Roach Hydra, despite that failed attack, he was still able to successfully get into Hive Tech and get into lurkers and actually make that game competitive. He had some good moments where he was able to take a good fight, outposition Trigger as well. Not too bad whatsoever. The problem here is that because the rush distance is so short, Trigger, he just walks across, he just like takes a couple of steps to the right and just walks into a Zerg base and just kills the base anyway, while the lurkers are trying to base trade. And of course, Trigger could always recall back home. So it was definitely a good moment there for threepoint, but alas, Trigger was still able to punish threepoint for the move out and of course recall and clean up the attack as well. GG, well played, solid game there out of Trigger. And with that, we are tied up. We are tied up 1-1 and we're going to the ace match. Let's go. We are going to game number 3. See in the chat, Angela, who the hell is threepoint? Ooh, if you haven't been watching the CranKy Ducklings, then maybe you haven't seen threepoint. Threepoint, he was an up-and-coming Korean Zerg player back in 2020. Basically, back in 2020, which is like, you know, the start of like the COVID era of StarCraft, we had a lot of up-and-coming Korean players. We had Honmono, we had Quanta, we had Jinio, we had Percival, we had threepoint, we had Stephen Curry, Lunacy, Rebellion, of course. Rebellion, he's been an up-and-comer for even longer than that. We had a lot of Korean Protoss, Terran, and Zerg players. Threepoint was one of them. Threepoint was one of them. We've been casting threepoint since 2020, whenever we can, in ESL Open Cups, as well as other events. Threepoint did take a hiatus, maybe last year. Last year, a lot of the players that I just mentioned, they were on hiatus. Threepoint recently came back. He recently came back a couple of months ago. To more regularly competing and more regularly practicing. So really cool to see that he has returned after almost a year break, almost a year hiatus, maybe 6 months, 6 months of a hiatus. So really cool to see him return here. Always a lot of fun to watch. And here we go. He also streams. He streams on Twitch. But here we go. Spawning in the top left-hand corner of Site Delta, we have our Canadian Protoss player, the Red Protoss representing Team Basilisk. Tying up the series 1-1, it is Trigger. And spawning in the bottom right-hand corner, we have his opponent. Oh my god, we're drone pulling. I was distracted. We're all in. It's threepoint, the Korean Zerg. Ha. Let's go. We drone pull, we 12 pull as well. We're flooding everything across the map to try to break Trigger's natural base. He has fully walled off here at the natural, pulling his own boys as well. As this gateway, it may go down. It looks like the Zealot will be able to pop out just in time. Zealot does pop. Gateway will eventually go down. Lings are coming out here just in time for that gateway as well. Oh, but it's going to be all about the worker micro. How well can we drill these probes and the drones? And here we go. The workers, they do look to engage with each other. Another gateway on the way here for Trigger. Threepoint. Again, trying to commit. I see in chat. Did threepoint used to be Curry? No. Curry used to be Stephen Curry. That's a Protoss player. That's a Korean Protoss. Good friends, though, with threepoint. They are good friends, as here we go. We do drone drill past the armory collapse on this. So far, the probes, they do engage with these drones. Workers are going down. The Zealot is going to be focused down as well. The Zealot does fall, and threepoint, it looks like he has done it. He breaks through. GG gets called, and threepoint will take the series 2-1, eliminating Trigger from the tournament. GG. Let's go. GG, well played. Again, threepoint, he is the cheesiest Zerg player in all of South Korea. He was able to 12-pull Trigger in Game 1. It was a 12-pull proxy hatchery in Game 1. And here in Game 3, 12-pull drone pull. Let's go. Again, Trigger, he only had the one Zealot. It got surrounded immediately. I don't know if you saw. But the Zealot was far forward. The pros were behind, so the Zealot, it got surrounded. It got cleaned up. There was only one Zealot to work with. And again, Trigger just was shut down then and there. When it comes to that kind of defense, I'm curious if it might be wiser to get your first Zealot out and defend in your main base instead. But at the same time, like Trigger, he was trying to hold on to his gateway, trying to produce a second Zealot. That was, I think, the goal there. Alas, we saw the threepoint was able to overwhelm. And get out of control. GG. GG, well played. Trigger is eliminated. This is a big win for threepoint. Again, threepoint, he's gone toe-to-toe with some of these bigger names before. But very rarely does threepoint ever take one of these big names down in a full series, especially in these online weeklies. So, yeah, big win here for threepoint. Very well done. Did rely on his 12 pulls and on his cheese, of course. But, I mean, a win's a win, you know? It's and that's what threepoint is best at. That is what he is best at here. Does take the win. But again, I believe Stephen Curry also recently joined Hyper 1. So both Stephen Curry and threepoint are, I mean, there's a reason why they're both, their IDs are both related to basketball, to the NBA, both related. They're both good friends. Both teammates. One Protoss, one Zerg, and threepoint does advance on into the quarterfinals, taking down Trigger. GG, well played. We also casted threepoint recently in the Hyper 1 X Platinum Heroes show match, where Hyper 1 did beat the Platinum Heroes. I believe threepoint beat Goblin in that series. I say he beat Goblin. It was a 1-1. It was a tied 1-1 score. And Funada threepoint, because I remember he tried to all in on Radisson Station. It's like, mate, what are you doing? What are you what's going on here, Papi? What's going on? Este threepoint. But with that, we have our first series in the books, and now we're going to be jumping over into the quarterfinals, into a very different series. We're going to be jumping into, let me just quickly double check. We're going to be jumping into Hero versus Yumiho in a PvT. Let's go.